There's so much untapped imagination on this planet that if we and others can help unlock those ideas and connect those people that dreamed them up with others in faraway places, imagine that. My pulse rate rises when I cross a border, and I cross a lot of them. How many people here have crossed international borders before? How do you feel like right at that moment when you're off the plane or driving through a border and the guards are there, and if it's coming into this country, it's the TSA. I feel a lot of different things. It can be impatient, edgy, exuberant. It's a real moment. Sometimes I just feel antsy to get through and eager to continue my journey. I just want to get past the guards and get going. I've been checking out a poster show staged by Seattle designer Daniel R. Smith, Cuban designer Pepe Menendez, and Iranian designer Iman Rad. They put together a show that features 60 or 70 posters by designers, a lot of young designers, from Seattle, Havana, and Tehran. These guys have a sense of humor, too. They call their show the shit show. It's anything but a shit show. Check out some of these posters. The way the show is set up is there's several dozen triptychs, and in each case, the poster on the left will be designed by a designer from Seattle, and the one in the center by a designer from Havana, and the one on the right by a designer from Tehran. I'm struck by the common metaphors. So these are creative people in very, very different cities and cultures whose countries for decades have discouraged travel and even dialogue between these places and people. And yet, designers have been telling stories using the same symbols, the same images, and the same visual language. In the words of the curators, Daniel, Pepe, and Iman, these are designers whose political history places them at decisive crossroads. And their work shows a yearning and eagerness for progressive transformation. The challenge for all these designers is we live in a world in which commonalities are eclipsed by differences. There are all kinds of borders. We all push against them, and when we are brilliant, we cross them. When we are brave, we break through them. When I was 17, I was a numbnut. That's a technical term. I was a numbnut kid from Philly. By dumb luck, I wound up at University of the Arts in the city of Philadelphia in the late 70s. It was called Philadelphia College of Art back then, or PCA, but it's grown up since then, and now it's a university, and one of only 3 in this country that combines the dramatic theater and performing arts with fine and applied art and design. It's an amazing place. And as it turned out, the design program at UArts back then was part of an important shift in design education that had begun in Europe and was moving across the United States. The movement was driven by a philosophy birthed in the Bauhaus and a curriculum developed at the Kunstgewerbeschule. Try to say it 3 times. Kunstgewerbeschule, Kunstgewerbeschule, Kunstgewerbeschule. I love that word. The Kunstgewerbeschule is in Basel, Switzerland. And that program and the philosophy that drove it placed a very high value on experimentation and a rigorous design process that was applicable to design assignments of any kind in any media. And the advocates of the program called that learning, forever learning, because if you came out of that design school, you could apply these principles and practices as you continued throughout your career. Well, this movement took hold, and it moved across borders from Basel to New Haven, Yale, from there to Kansas City, the Art Institute. From there, it went to Minneapolis at MCAD. In 1966, it came to Philadelphia University of the Arts. From there to the design school at University of Cincinnati, shortly thereafter to the Rhode Island School of Design, then to Cranbrook, and so on. It just took hold, this way of teaching design and a lot of the aesthetics. The founder of the University of the Arts program was a very well-known and now much beloved design educator named Ken Hebert. Ken is in his 80s now, and long retired, but still very sharp, and still very, very committed and devoted to those design principles. And some of us visited him a couple months ago just to talk to him, and thought I'd share with you his own version of what they were trying to do back then.
We had criteria that we can sum up as veracity, truthfulness, illumination as compared to deception that happens in a lot of communication. We had the value of clarity. There is so much of design that mixes signals and is confusing. That's effect rather than a communication of an idea. We had the value of vital form, that is to say, form which in all its parts, including the spaces created, are contributing to what is being projected, stated. We had the value of the formation of the self, that not creating a slick surface style to the individual, but rather an authentic inner voice. We had the value of service. That is, that we are societally contributing to society's benefit. A long-term view, not a short-term opportunistic view.
They were principles to live by. So Ken surrounded himself with wonderful faculty: Steph Geisbuehler, Hans Allemann, Chris Zielinski, Inga Druckery, Bill Longhauser, Chris Myers. A signature highlight of the program was these visiting luminaries that would come in, amazing guest instructors that over a 30-year period would spend a week each year at the school. And some of the folks included Armin Hoffman, who was a giant of Swiss design, and Wolfgang Weingart, who set in motion a huge exploration that went all over the world in terms of a visual language. Of course, Paul Rand came a number of times. And then over the years, you know, as design really evolved, we got people like April Greiman and Dan Friedman and people like Michael Beirut, and many people come through. And they're there for a few days, and they do really amazing workshops that, for the kids, for the students, give them a glimpse of how to put these principles into action. Being in that program was a border crossing of sorts for me. The teachers got me very eager and very antsy, eager about what I was learning, really, these amazing design principles, and antsy about how was I ever going to turn that into a job, gainful employment. My father told me, you better come up with a plan B and it better be good. So I figured out a really good plan. I thought, you know what? My fallback position, in case the graphic design doesn't work, would be glass blowing. Like I said, I was a numbnut. But luckily, I did not have to put that into practice. I was voted least likely to ever become a trustee of the university. That's me, actually, right there. Well, graduation came, and with it, the same choices a lot of students out here today will face, which is basically stand still or start crossing your own borders. So I ran like hell and got to work. My favorite assignments, over the years were ones that led to change. And I learned that folks that want us to change have an easier time if we understand that they believe in the same universal truths and symbols that we do. For me, when I looked at the Havana, Seattle, Tehran show, I saw that. These common values that get beyond politics about what people care about and how they communicate to each other. My career as a designer took me first in New York, but then to Europe and Asia and Africa, and the Middle East. And I learned a lot about culture and people in those travels, as I had to. This shot was 7 or 8 years ago, taken in Jeddah. This was me taking part in a very intensive cultural download that lasted over a week in Jeddah, which is a border town itself. Jeddah is a city on the Red Sea on the western coast of Saudi Arabia. So for over a millennia, well over a millennia, millions of Islamic pilgrims have made the journey to Mecca, the Hajj, or the Umrah, through Jeddah. And millions have stayed over those years. It's become a real polyglot city. And Saudi Arabia is an interesting place. It's a true monarchy. So not like the UK, this is a real monarchy with a real king, with a real royal court that exerts massive control over many aspects of people's lives. Over 50% of the population of Saudi Arabia is under the age of 25. That's amazing, if you think about that number. There are people there that want change because it is oppressive in many respects, certainly for women. We talked about border crossing and the TSA earlier. Can you imagine ever being glad to see the TSA team at New York's JFK airport? That's actually JFK. 10 days or so in the kingdom can make you actually happy to see that crowd. And it's not just me. The border crossing from the eastern province of Saudi leads to Bahrain. And people take the drive in the evening because the international flights from Bahrain depart in the middle of the night. And it's a dark and spooky drive across a 16-mile causeway over the Persian Gulf with a heavily guarded military checkpoint midway on the border between the two countries, right there. I became involved in creating a huge cultural center in Saudi Arabia, a place that would bring in art, including Western art that was rarely seen in the kingdom, and would teach people about art making, including filmmaking. It had a cinema, which is virtually non-existent in Saudi. And during the project, I became friends with a member of the Saudi elite also involved. In a revealing moment, he confided to me the feeling many people there have of living under such control. He told me he felt like a man who lived with bricks on his back. Bricks that only lifted when he crossed that checkpoint miles out in the Gulf, where even breathing felt different. Better. In these countries and many others, on a number of projects like that, a lot of cultural projects and university projects and education projects, I would find young, talented, highly educated people working to bring about progressive change to their states, to their regions, even the world. And I know there's a lot of people in this room that are interested in things like that. That these change agents would reach out to designers continents away because they believed that powerful design would help them get these places built and embraced, showed me just how potent design can be in bringing about change. So, in a development shocking to my college friends, a few years ago, I actually was appointed a trustee of University of the Arts. That's crazy. And equally crazy to me, 2016 will mark the 50th anniversary of the establishment of that design program that Ken Hebert put in place. So I was asked to commemorate the 50th anniversary of that program, and I wanted to do it in a way that was not ephemeral. So with my classmate Jan Almquist and former teacher Hans Allemann and an inspiring group of fellow alums. So this group with current and past faculty and a brand new president of the university and people just interested in elevating Philadelphia's role in a global dialogue around design. And with the blessing of Ken Hebert, we are creating a program within University of the Arts that we call Border Crossing. Border Crossing is built on two foundational ideas: that human creativity is the world's most precious and potent resource, and that this world of ours needs more designers who understand how to use their talents to transport people across borders of all kinds.
We're evolving. Adopting and adapting.
Creating and breaking.
Questioning and answering.
Beginning and ending.
Everything is in flux.
From science and technology to arts and culture.
You
And me.
But evolution requires breakthroughs, big and small.
It requires getting comfortable with the unfamiliar and absorbing something entirely new.
It requires courage.
Courage to cross borders.
Design empowers us to cross these borders. It sparks moments of epiphany and empathy.
It advances our world by advancing our worlds.
Cultural,
Political,
industrial,
environmental. In Philadelphia, at the University of the Arts, we've been crossing borders for 50 years. Our pioneering design program has led the country in marrying art and industry. But a program that found success in the past is not guaranteed success in the future. And so we're evolving our curriculum to meet and exceed the new demands of our changing world.
Border crossing is a new approach to design education. It's a way to broaden the perspectives of students and bring them into the global design conversation.
We'll invite the most inspiring, challenging, and innovative design thinkers and practitioners from around the world to Philadelphia for an extended stay within the University of the Arts community, giving these designers a platform to teach, research, practice, curate, collaborate, publish, and more.
They'll create their own classes and assignments, guiding students in a collaborative environment with intimate working relationships and rigorous experimentation.
This prolonged period of engagement dramatically expands the typical workshop model, creating a unique and unprecedented experience for undergraduates.
Designers will share their diverse experiences, beliefs, and ways of working with the University of the Arts community and the public at large, enriching and engaging with the city.
They'll sow the seeds of exploration and problem solving, shaping us not just as designers, but as people equipped to connect with other people and ideas across the world.
Because we're the next generation. We're responsible for shaping the future of business and culture.
So join us as we cross borders in Philadelphia.
Join us in redefining arts education.
Join us as we become the next generation of designers
Ready to challenge
and change
the world.
I'm really excited to introduce Border Crossing today because until now, only a couple of dozen people that have been involved in putting it together and getting it off the ground have known about it. And it's terribly exciting to introduce it to you here at Cusp. Border Crossing is designed to expose young people to designers and innovators around the world who are using design and technology and media and content to propel people across borders of all kinds. To introduce students to a real world where design has impact on a global stage. Central to Border Crossing will be visiting faculty invited from around the world to spend between 4 and 16 weeks teaching in Philadelphia. What they create over that time with the students and the broader university and external communities will fuel a virtual design center that makes available all their lectures, their classroom teaching, exhibitions, writings, to anyone who wants to learn wherever on earth they are. And as Border Crossing takes root, we will create rich programming around the teaching. We envision symposiums and corporate partnerships, community outreach, traveling design exhibitions, consulate partnerships, student exchanges, competitions, and more. The teachers we are looking for are designers and artists and inventors who are working on the borders of change. It can be political change, cultural change, technology, health, media, the arts. And within border crossing, they will be exposing people to new ideas and concepts that have worked for them in the places they come from, and simultaneously honoring their own cultures and heritage and values. Now we're engaged in a few activities. We are designing the program. We are searching for teachers, designers, and creators who would like to spend a couple months teaching in Philadelphia. We are looking for a director of the program who will make it her or his own. And we're reaching out for benefactors who will give us resources to make it reality. Creative connections don't simply break down walls. They build understanding and appreciation, not just for ideas, but for the lives of others, and how collectively we can make those lives better. The University of the Arts Design Department believes the only way to look at 2016 is as both year 50 and day 1 for this storied program. Young designers are the provocateurs of change. It's our job to help them, and there's lots to do. Thank you.